Rewind Sports 60. From the city of big shoulders, the jewel of the Midwest, comes a sports show that's one of a kind. From iconic players to iconic stadiums to iconic teams, this is my kind of town. Chicago! And the Rewind Sports 60 is my kind of show. From Air Jordan to Sweetness to Papa Bear Hallis, this city works hard, but plays even harder. Danny Carlino and Jerry Riles bring you the Rewind Sports 60. Live. The Rewind Sports 60 starts now.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rewind Sports 60. We are live, 8:20 a.m. in our WCPT studios in Chicago. Please join in on the conversation for the fastest hour in sports, and which really has been one of the most pivotal sports weeks in history, essentially. Give us a call to join in on the sports conversation at 773-763-9278. And we're also streaming live on Facebook at therewindsports60.com. So I want to get right into it and bring in my esteemed panel. I want to start with Dan Marver, the marvelous one. Dan, what were your thoughts on everything that happened in sports this week?
Well,
what a crazy week.
In sports, I'll talk about in sports. The Cubs are 3.5 games ahead in their division, and the Sox are tied with the Indians for first place in sports.
Woohoo!
And the Bucks closed out their series, and the Lakers closed out theirs. So that's what happened in sports.
Okay.
But what happened outside of sports is probably something that the show's going to cover in great depth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we might, and we definitely want to hear your insight on things. And then I have to bring in the amazing, the wonderful Jerry Riles. Jerry, how are you feeling on this historic sports week?
I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. I am exhilarated, and I am thrilled to see your beautiful face, your beautiful smile, and of course the marvelous one. But it's just great to get an opportunity to sit in the studios of WCPT 820 AM, and of course to rewind, reflect on the past week of sports. And as both of you alluded to, on and off the playing field was quite interesting. There's no question about it, Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the events that took place, and obviously we're talking about the NBA deciding to say, hey, we are not going to play in response to the shooting, the 7 shots that were fired at Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin this week by police officers. You know, the players basically from the NBA, they've said that they've had enough. And I said, it's no way they're going to cancel the season. You know, too much money. $1 billion we're talking about from the playoffs alone. I knew they weren't going to cancel. Did you all, what were your thoughts when they were saying potentially that they could cancel the season and go back home? And one of the players said, I don't even know why we even came out here.
Yeah, I mean, everything's ultimately about money. I mean, it would have even been worse if they had fans in the stands who they had to give money back to.
Right.
So I thought maybe a team might drop out, but I didn't think that the whole thing would end. And it's good that they're going to finish it. And you know, I completely understand all the ramifications and what happened and whatnot. But you know, again, I'd like to see some definitive solution to this finally, but there won't be one immediately, unfortunately.
No, there's not going to be one because marvelous.
Yeah.
If there was a solution, I think it would have come across by now.
Yeah.
I think if there was a solution to this whole, confusion and, uproar and division, I think, smarter people, level heads would have sat down at the table, met, and they would have come up with a solution that would have benefited, those who are not happy.
I've talked before about legislation, which would be a minor step. I mean, the Republicans and the Democrats have both put forward justice plans, but it's an election year, so nobody's going to agree to anything, unfortunately. It's all politics. I mean, there a lot of things like no chokeholds and having the police match the demographics of the neighborhood and things of that nature. But, I mean, the one thing that's common in these cases is, I mean, the police didn't just happen upon the situation. I don't know how a domestic abuse call ends up with this result. It doesn't make any sense, except for the obvious conclusion of the I don't know what's in the police's mind and heart, but obviously it must be racism is all we can come up with.
Well, I'll tell you what's in their mind and heart.
I mean, I don't know their mind and heart personally, but if you do.
It's the mentality. Yeah. It's the mentality that black African American life is inferior, is less than. And it started from slavery. And it's very pervasive as we see today. It's a mindset. And it won't change until we continue to have these dialogues and until we stand up and say enough, which is what the players did. How much more can we take? It's just not enough to just say, hey, you know, when is this going to change? Everybody has to do their part. This is so serious. That man got shot in the back 7 times. I don't care if he had a record. I don't care what, you know, the start of it was. We all know, undeniably, if he was white, he would not be in the hospital paralyzed right now. We just saw it. They were showing reports of a man who was resisting arrest, who he went off on the police and got back in his car and made it home to his family or wherever he had to go. No reason that man should have been shot 7 times with this situation. And the issue is, this is not the only situation. Specifically after what happened with George Floyd, you would think that there would be some type of mentality shift. Obviously not. This is ridiculous.
You know, you mentioned, Lauren, and very well said, you said everyone has to do their part. What do you mean by everyone has to do their part?
For me, one issue that I'm having with this is that, and I see it at work too, I don't feel that people are understand and have the empathy enough to really let's deal with what the problem is. What I've said initially, America historically has had an issue with feeling like African American life is not as valuable, is inferior. Let's stop right there. Everybody needs to wrap their heads around that. I just feel like that's something that white people gloss over, you know, in terms of the mentality and what's really behind this. There's a serious issue, and it's pervasive with us as well as African Americans as well. Obviously so, though, because that's all we've been taught. That's all we know, all we've known since slavery. We are inferior. We are less than. And it starts from there, and it seeps down to the prison system, to the education, to the housing, to the healthcare, to the environment. That's why we have the problem that we have today. And I think more people need to just take ownership with that, let that absorb, and then work from there as in terms of equality, humanity, America. We are supposed to be equal. We are all one. We don't realize it, but we all are one. And it's no way that you can just, as a cop, see this African American, shoot him in the back like that, knowing good and well you would never have done that if he was white.
Marvelous.
I mean, look at the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, for example. You're familiar with that?
17-year-old kid with a gun.
From Illinois, or live in Illinois.
Antioch.
So, I mean, that underscores your point, because I believe that he ended up going home that night. Did he not?
He certainly did.
Yes, he did.
So that's what's underscores your point just there. So,
and here's the deal regarding that is the fact that they handcuffed Jacob to his hospital bed.
Yes, they did. And he's paralyzed.
And it's like, oh, wait a minute, hang on here, hey, whoa, hang on here. Let me take a step back here. Wait a minute, hang on. Now, the one thing, we didn't see the scuffle on the passenger side of the car.
Right.
With the police officers. We see the footage. Well, actually, there was an outlet that actually showed it. And I only saw it that one time, and then they pulled it. But you see him, we've seen it universal all over, where he's walking around the front of the car, and he's trying to get in. And as the officer is grabbing his T-shirt, and he reaches down on the driver's side, you hear the gunshots. Okay, so this guy shot 7 times in the back. He lives. It's unbelievable, because I'm hearing reports, and I'm like, this guy lived after getting shot in the back 7 times. But then you have the 17-year-old kid coming from Antioch, driving across the state line with this rifle, and they show footage, of course, Facebook Live footage, and he's with his buddy, and they're protecting some auto place, some repair shop or whatever. And then they're met by some protesters, I guess, and one guy is shot, and he dies. And then the next thing you know, you see this 17-year-old kid, Kyle, running down the street. He trips and falls, and you guys seen it all. But the point of the matter is, the National Guard that was in town to try to control everything This kid, 17 years of age with a rifle, is waving to him and saying, hey, I'm here to protect the business. Not his business. Nobody. I'm here to protect this business. And they say, hey, good. Good. Thank you.
Carry on.
After the shooting, he gets up and again, he's approaching him with his hands up. Let him know what happened. And okay, see you later. Go on home. Take yourself home. You'll be okay. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, this guy gets
that justified?
Meanwhile, this guy gets shot in the back 7 times, and you handcuff him to his bed in the hospital. That makes that clearly and literally makes no sense to me.
It does.
Zero. And, you talk about the controversy regarding this past week in sports, on and off the field, on and off the court, or whatever the case may be, for Brian Urlacher. After all this unfolded, transpired, Brian Urlacher, and we're certainly going to talk about that, he sends out an Instagram message or a tweet or whatever the case may be, quote, Brett Favre played the Monday Night Football game the day his dad died, threw 4 touchdowns in the first half, and was a legend for playing in the face of adversity. NBA players boycott the playoffs because a dude reaching for a knife wanted on a felony sexual assault warrant was shot by police. This is Brian Urlacher, who just went into the Hall of Fame. All his buddies who are black,
the beloved Brian Urlacher,
attended the Hall of Fame induction. And this is
he done snap. Brian Urlacher snapped. Well, he didn't used to be like that.
Well, how do you know that?
Well, how
do you know that?
Well, obviously, he should know better. I'm surprised, but this isn't the first sus thing that he said. He said something else that was suspect a while back too. There
are a lot of professional athletes out there, and we hold them on a high pedestal. We hold them as iconic figures, as gods, and we want to see them in the perfect light. And
Brian Urlacher, black baby mama.
I'm sorry?
Doesn't he have a black baby mama?
Well, that's enough. Well, we can get into that. We can get into that.
Talking about that, did you see what Matt Forte responded?
Yes, I certainly did.
What did he say?
I certainly did.
The comment, B. Urlacher 54 posted, is void of empathy, compassion, wisdom, and coherence, but full of pride and ignorance. I pray for those who have been blinded by their wealth, privilege, and earthly fame. It breeds arrogance in their hearts, and those who refuse to. And it's continued. I mean,
here in the world of sports, these athletes are looked upon as iconic, godlike figures. Okay, and so when they're in their clubhouse, the locker room, or whatever the case may be, they don't. Most of them don't look at, especially in the National Football League, don't look at race because they know their livelihood depends on
black man.
That guy. No, again, they don't look at they look at, hey, I need this dude to protect me.
Right.
If I'm a quarterback, I need this. If I'm a running back, I need old boy. That's why Walter Payton, may he rest in peace, he would buy his offensive line watches at the end of the season to appreciate them for the work that they've done.
Right.
A lot of these players look at it and say, hey, you know what? I'm in battle with this cat. I don't care if he's black, green, yellow, orange, purple. I don't care. This dude is, especially in the National Football League. But it does not mean
that they're not racist.
Well, there are some racists who have played professional sports, and they have played on the same field as minorities. But when they go home, in their basements, in their garages, in their penthouses, wherever they go, you can believe they're like, look at that coon running up and down there. Look at that monkey over there. I'm promising you, you've had some racists that played professionally, and they've used those terms behind closed doors. But then when they come out in public and they put on that mask that we're wearing, they put on that mask, they come across because they understand it's economics. They understand they're not going to affect their bottom line if they have to endorse a product. They get it. But it doesn't mean that they didn't have this in their DNA, so to speak.
But to me, Jerry, it seems difficult to believe because you think they've gone to war with African Americans. They're close with them. They, have been to their homes and have a close relationship with them. Versus, quite frankly, in this country, there's a lot of white people that don't even have black friends, that don't even have that close relationship where they can see African Americans up close and really understand that, we are human beings. We are one. Humanity. That aspect of it. How can you still just be blatantly racist and just come out and say some things like that after you have gone to war with your fellow brother.
Because
he's
at
your
the end
brother
of
on
the
the
day,
football field.
at the end of the day, you say, hey, you know what? You go on over there, and I'm going over here because I can, and you can't.
And that's even true in Chicago. How it's segregated. I mean, there are people that probably black folks never met white folks, and vice versa.
Yeah, this is why I say it's the greatest city in the world, and I love it. One and top of the list is the fact, it's a sports town, and I love the fact that we all come from different economic backgrounds, nationalities, whatever the case, education, but we all, especially on Sundays, in the National Football League, we all get together to root for our beloved Bears, right? Sports does that. It brings everyone together. When the Bulls were winning the championships, it brought the city together as one. And that's why I love it. But the other part of it is, and I tell people all the time, especially people visiting this great city, that you could travel from one end of the city, take Western Avenue, take Ashland Avenue, travel all the way from the north to the south, and you're going to pass through a number of different neighborhoods, whether it's Polish, Italiano, Latino, black, whatever the case may be, in the city of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful thing, in my opinion. It's a beautiful thing. But it's also, a detriment. I can remember growing up, in this great town, and, you go over to Comiskey Park, 35th and Shields. As a black man, you have to be kind of careful. Why? Because it was in Bridgeport. And the only pass that I would get, and my friends would get, and my brothers would get, my family, is the fact that we worked at the ballpark as vendors. So if we were working, we got a pass because we were considered a part of the group, the family. But if you weren't, if you had no reason to be around there in Bridgeport, you had some problems. And we still had problems, and people knew we worked over there. So it's a great town, but it's a town. It's Chicago, and I say it loosely, the phrase, it's Chicago, the city that works. The city that works against you. You have to understand who you are and where you are. And unfortunately, that's what we're experiencing in this great land that we live in, we call the United States of America. It's unfortunate, and it's a damn shame. I got a theory on why there's so much racism going on in this city in particular regarding minorities, black men, and the police. But let's go out to the phone lines first before I get to that theory. We're going out to Rick, who's calling from DeKalb. Rick, how are you, buddy? Welcome to the Rewind Sports 60.
How you doing? Well, I don't really want to see the Black Lives Matter situation enter into sports. I wish it could be done some other way, but I do absolutely admire and adore our sports heroes. So I understand they have the right to do what they want to do. But what made me call in was there's a meme on WCPT that shows police officers shooting a man walking away in the back, and then it shows that white teenager walking by them unseen, so to speak. And I just thought, this is the problem we have right now in America, is that we can't discuss things in ways that is a discussion. I mean, if we're going to go look at Kyle Rittenhouse, who should not have been there, who should not have been a 17-year-old with any gun, let alone an AR-15, and we compare him to Jacob Blake, I mean, I just don't think that's fair. I don't think there's any reason to do that other than to incite, I guess, lines being drawn, because I just don't see the reason for that. I mean, Breonna Taylor, I think everybody's heart should break for people who are killed and murdered by police officers. There's no way that I, as a person who is not black, should not feel compassion for anybody whose life is ended for disgusting reasons. But to compare Jacob Blake and Kyle Rittenhouse as some kind of bad and good is completely, I think, off base.
Well,
it doesn't do anything to bring our country together as it should.
Well, here's the deal, Rick, and I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, and I'm going to keep you on the line here. I don't think we're necessarily, at least let me speak for myself. I'm not comparing the two gentlemen. I'm comparing the situations that unfolded and the consequences regarding that. And if you and others can't see that there are total differences regarding the situation when it relates to law enforcement in this country, in Chicago, and in Kenosha, to me, there's a little bit more education that needs to go on here, because as you well know, I don't know how old a man you are and you're from DeKalb, but you can believe it in your logical mind. I don't know your level of education, but it does not, and take the color out of it, but it simply does not make sense for an unarmed man who is leaving an area, gets stopped by a group of people, i.e. the law enforcement, who are supposed to serve and protect, to shoot this person 7 times in the back who's no threat. But then you look at this other situation, and you have a guy with a rifle. You say an AR-7?
AR-15.
Yeah. You have a guy with a rifle walking up and down the street. He addresses the military who are protecting the streets and say, hey, I'm okay. I'm here to help you. He shoots 3 people. 2 of them die. He's allowed to get up, get in this car, drive across a state line, go home, and is not arrested until the next day. Take the color out of it. You've got to say yourself. You've got to say to yourself, hey, wait a minute. Something seems kind of off here. Something doesn't seem right. So we're not comparing the two.
I could not agree more. I couldn't agree more.
And that's what we're discussing here.
If you're looking at serving, protecting people, were not the police serving, protecting the sexual assault victim from Jacob, who they had a warrant out for his arrest?
Wait a minute. No. Hang on here. Did they report that he was assaulting this person at the time that they shot him 7 times?
No, of course not.
Of course not. That's the point. That's the point. Lauren said it. Lauren Cox said, I don't care what his record was. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the circumstances that we are aware of at the time that it occurred. We didn't know if we found out that information after the fact. We found that out. Listen. That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. The point.
That's absolutely relevant.
No.
That's why they tried to arrest him.
Listen, I didn't know he had charges against him or whatever the case may be. I didn't know that. This Kyle what's his name? Rottenberg? Rottenberg? What's his name? I didn't know that he's allegedly connected to some white supremacist group. Mm-hmm. I know that. The scenario that I laid out to you, Rick, from DeKalb, right, is that these are 2 instances, 2 circumstances that occurred. One guy who's unarmed, who's leaving the scene, gets apprehended by the cops, and he's shot 7 times in the back, unarmed. This other guy has an arm, and he's walking up and down the street telling law enforcement, I'm here to help you. He shoots 3 people, 2 of them die, and he's allowed to leave and drive home and get in the bed and go to sleep. There's something wrong with Rick. Those 2 scenarios. I'm not factoring any of the other things that we learned after the fact. I'm giving you 2 situations that an average, in my opinion, person with a halfway decent education will look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense to me. This does not make any sense to me. If you have a good ripe apple and a rotten apple, which apple are you going to eat? The nice ripe one, or are you going to eat the rotten one? A person with common sense is going to say, hey, you know what? I don't want that one. I want this one. Rick, I love you.
That's a very good
Thank you.
analogy.
And that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. I got to run, Rick. This is the fastest hour in sports conversation. We want you to continue to listen and be a part of what we're doing here, buddy.
David Blake is not the healthy apple.
Thank you, brother. I got to tell you, listen, folks, we're going commercial free here. It's the fastest hour in sports conversation. It is the Rewind Sports 60. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. The marvelous one, Dan Marver. The lovely, the talented, the outstanding. She is sensational, and she's going to bring the heat. She's Lauren Cox. And on our TR60 hotline, ladies and gentlemen, you love this guy. He's an iconic figure in the National Football League and, of course, in Chicago. He goes by Duck Coach. He brought us our own Super Bowl some 34, 35 years ago. He's on the TR60 hotline. He's Mike Ditka. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing good, guys, but I don't have much power left on my phone, so.
Well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll pay the bills we have to pay it for you, Coach. But we appreciate you taking some time on this Sunday to come on board and join us. And I tell you, this world of sports that we know, Coach, has been turned upside down, inside and out, and who knows which way it's going to land. But we wanted to get you on our phone lines to talk with you, first and foremost, to see how you're doing, and secondly, get your viewpoint on what's transpired in the world of sports in 2020.
Well, sports is good. I mean, the athletes are bigger, they're better, they're faster. I mean, you look at everything that's going on. These guys are playing the game of football today. They're playing at a much higher level than we played, even though we had a lot of great players in our time. But it's completely different. It's the man's game.
Hi, Coach. This is Lauren Cox here. I wanted to get your insight on, I'm sure you probably heard about Brian Urlacher's, he's under fire for posting a meme criticizing the NBA players for protesting. When you saw or when you heard, and I'm not sure if you have, Urlacher's comments criticizing the NBA players for protesting, what were your thoughts on that?
I don't pay attention to that stuff. Brian has the right to say what he wants to. If that's what he believes, and that's what he believes. I don't hold that against him. I just think that, guys who are playing in special sports got a heck of a deal. They're making a heck of a lot of money. I would just enjoy it.
Another question for you. We just had a caller who called in, Rick, and he talked about the NBA protesting, and he said that he wished that they could protest in another way. And I wanted to ask him, and I didn't get a chance to, but I'll pose it to you. What way would be comfortable, or what do you think, if you have any thoughts on ways that you think that the players should protest?
So what do they protest?
Injustice, an African-American man getting shot 7 times in the back, and a gazillion others that get shot all the time unjustifiably by the police.
Do you think it's unjustified? I don't know, guys. I mean, you're talking about something now that you're pulling this out of the air. You don't know the circumstances. I don't know the circumstances. I don't agree with shooting anybody. But I don't know. I don't know how you would say that it's right or wrong or otherwise. The police have a job to uphold law and order. That's their job. Now, do they make mistakes? Yes, they do. But I think if you look at the percentages, they do a pretty good job.
Coach, here's what the whole issue is. All right. Here's why the protestings are going on. Here's why players are boycotting. Here's why, not only in the National Football League, Major League Baseball, the NBA, and of course, the National Hockey League, soccer, the whole 9 yards. It's the fact that there are things that are occurring. Now, there are 75% of African American or minorities playing in the National Football League. 75% of the players in the NBA are African American or minority men. So they are the ones who are getting very well paid as far as what they're doing because of their talents and their skill set. But the other 99% of us, we got to earn a living, and we got to find a way to do that. So when the circumstances are not presented to you on a plain, even level playing field, and in some cases they end in death, the 1% that has made it out, the less than 1% are saying, hey, you know what? We got to do something here because for the grace of God, there go I. And that's the problem, Coach. These players who are making the money that they're making and on the stage and the platform that they're on are saying, hey, you know what? We have to represent the people who have not made it, who are still struggling. And this is a way for us to get our point across, get our message across. And for anyone who does not see that or understand that, it lends to bring about some pain. And that's the problem that these players have and the community as a whole have with management, people in authority, and people who make decisions aren't meeting at the table to try to come up with a solution.
Well, you're probably right. You know, there's some things you said there are probably right. I mean, I think they should work hard enough to, you know, pro sports is a tremendous thing. It pays a lot of people a lot of money. It's good for a lot of people. Enjoy it. You have a God-given talent. Not everybody has the talent to dribble a basketball, shoot a basketball, catch a football, or hit a baseball. You got a talent. Thank God for it. Enjoy it. And do it in peace.
No, so Coach, here's the deal. And I love you on with the great Coach Mike Dicker of your Super Bowl winning Chicago Bears, the 85 Bears, Super Bowl 20. Coach, here's the deal. You are an advocate. You are out front for the retired players who can't take care of themselves because of the game of football. You are very outspoken, and those players who can't speak for themselves, who either literally can't talk, their mental CTE, the mental capacity has diminished considerably, their bodies are broken down, and you're out front saying, listen, we need to take care of these guys because this sport has given us the livelihood that we have today. But unfortunately, there are players in the past, in your era, before your era, and after your era, who financially aren't prepared. They can't take it. Physically, they're breaking down. And you want to make sure that things are done right and properly for those guys because they paid the way. And that's what these athletes in this protest and these boycotts are doing. They said, listen, it's beyond us now. This is our community. What do you say to that? Because you're doing the same thing.
I'm not saying they're right or wrong. Listen to me. I don't know what they are, right or wrong. I know that they have a right to dignity. Everybody has a right to dignity. And if they don't think they're getting dignity, then you got a right to protest. But you make a lot of money, guys. You're making a lot of money. You can't make that kind of money doing anything else. You cannot make the kind of money you make in sports doing anything else.
No. Yeah, I agree.
Then I said it. That's it.
Okay.
So, be grateful. Enjoy the opportunity you got. Thank God. Every day when you wake up, thank God. Hey, man, I got great talent. I'm using them. I'm making a lot of money. I can take care of my family. Enjoy it.
Hey, Coach, this is Dan in the studio. Before your battery goes dead, I wanted to ask you quickly about the kneeling. I assume you feel the same way, that they have a right to...
I don't think it's right. I think it's a privilege to live in this country. I think our flag is a symbol of freedom and opportunity and all the good things. And I think I don't know why. The kneeling thing I don't understand, so I really shouldn't comment on it.
No, I understand, Coach, and that's the problem here, because we all, you live in this country, you've grown up, learning the national anthem and our pledge of allegiance to the flag and all of that stuff. But, Coach, here's the difference here. Here's the big difference, and this is why we wanted to have you on to get your thoughts and get your perspective on what's affecting not only this great city that we live in, but this country that we live in and the world that we live in, Coach. And those players that you talked about, you have some fantastic players on that Super Bowl team, whether it's Walter Payton, Willie Gault, Mike Singletary, Otis Wilson. But listen, Coach, here's what we want you to understand and want others to understand, that as an African American man living in this country, playing in the greatest game in the world, in my opinion, playing professional sports and all the money that you make, at the end of the day, you still walk out of your door every single day as a black man, and you have to wonder what kind of racism I'm going to experience today because of the color of my skin. And that's the problem, Coach. The great Walter Payton.
Okay.
Coach.
I hear you.
Coach. So here's
That's the problem.
So how do we do it? Because, Coach, you didn't help the situation, Coach. And I love you to come on with us. But you didn't help the situation when you said, if you don't like this country, get the hell out of it. You didn't help. Oh, he hung up?
Oh, did we lose him?
Devin, call him back. Call him back.
Battery died.
Well, he did say his phone was going to die. But we got to talk to Coach off the ledge and let him understand. It's bigger than playing again, the greatest sport in the world, in my opinion. That's the National Football League. I love it. But if you're a professional athlete making all this money, it doesn't make the grass green on the other side for everybody else.
And that's what Jared Kushner came out and said, too. And I think it's interesting that people want to say how much money they make. That didn't stop, was it Michael Bennett when he was in Las Vegas and the police basically, who knows what they would have done to him if they hadn't found out. Yeah. Also, the Milwaukee Bucks player, Sterling, same thing. They don't care about the money that you make. That's the point that I was talking about earlier. It's the mindset. They don't know every single player if he's not LeBron or, someone recognizable like that. At the end of the day, all they see is inferiority. That's a black man. And that's the problem.
Right. And that's the message that we have to convey not only to the coach, but anyone out there listening to the program is that, and these players say, hey, man, listen, at the end of the day, I'm a black man. And I have to, every single day, when I wake up and open my eyes and then I go outside, I have to wonder, in a 24-hour period of time, or however long I'm out there, but when am I going to experience some sort of racism just for the color of my skin? And that's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all of your life.
And they've experienced it.
Here's the deal. I went to a concert a few years ago over at the Rosemont Theater, my buddy and I, Chris Rock. And he was talking, this is when Hillary was running all that good stuff, blah, 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 blah. He was funny as hell. It was hilarious. But Chris Rock said, hey, he said, turn up the lights. Turn up the lights. He turned up the lights.
Yeah, he clearly hung up on us. I've been calling his ringing.
He turned up the lights. He turned up the lights. He said, is there any, he goes, y'all know how rich I am. He goes, where I live, there are only like 3 of us. Me, Mary J. Blige, and somebody else. Denzel. I think Denzel had a place. He said, it's just the 3 of us. He said, his neighbor is a dentist. He said, my next door neighbor's a dentist. Mm-hmm. He goes, y'all know how rich I am. He goes,
those dentists, they make money.
Right? He's like, who the hell is he? But in any case, he said, is there any white person in the audience that would trade places with me? Now, he asked them to turn up the house lights. He said, is there anybody in here that would trade places with me? The white people got so uncomfortable. They were looking around. They were, because you got to face it. All the tragedies and injustices and everything that these guys are standing up for and kneeling for, whatever the case may be, there's no person in the world would substitute their life to take on that life. There's not. And he said for 24 hours, would you trade places with me, knowing how rich I am, for 24 hours?
I wouldn't even trade places with you, Jerry. No.
Those are fat words, buddy.
Hey, listen. In spite of everything else, I mean, the one thing that is bad that I'm upset about is the looting and the rioting. I mean, that's bad too, don't you admit? I mean, that's.
But do you understand the message behind the looting and the rioting? Because think about this.
And we don't even know what's all going on with all this looting and rioting.
This is another thing I want to say to you. Listen, and when I say you, not just you, Marvelous, but here's the deal. And the one thing I didn't mention the coach, and he hung up on us. He hung us on, and we tried to reach him back, but he didn't. So that's fine. The fact that he came on, that's all good. But the coach also said, before all this happened, that black people have not been oppressed in this country for over 100 years. He said that there's no oppression for black people in 100 years.
Since slavery ended.
Since what they're complaining about.
Okay.
But here's the deal: when everybody's talking about, oh, look at the looting, look at the rioting. Joe Biden said, "Hey, listen. When you see the Charleston, was it Charleston where the the white supremacists came out with the pitchforks and the torches and everything, right? When you see the looting and the rioting going on, Magnificent Mile or whatever the case may be, I don't condone it, not one bit. But if you go back to the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, and we're not even talking about Black Wall Street. White America has been rioting and looting in the black community since slavery, even before slavery. You've had white people marching with pitchforks, torches in black communities, burning them down, raping their women, lynching the kids.
Ku Klux Klan, basically, right?
They were the leaders.
Yeah, okay.
But there were people that look, they were white, who if you saw them Monday through Friday, you wouldn't suspect that they were a part of the white supremacist group. My point being is, all this looting and rioting that you're seeing today, right now, it's been happening in this country to Black America for years. But it was accepted and it was encouraged. They used to have lynchings on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon where white America would go to the park because Tyrone Hill, and I don't mean Tyrone Hill, the former basketball player, but Tyrone Doe is going to get lynched at 12 o'clock noon on Sunday.
Exactly.
Put on your Sunday best. Let's go. Get your picnic basket. We're going to see ourselves a lynching. So when you talk about the rioting and the looting that's taking place today because a group of people are fed up with being fed up and being treated unfairly, you got to look at yourselves and say, hey, wait a minute. And you go, hey, I didn't do that. Well, your grandmother did it. Your grandfather did it. Your great-grandmother did it. Your great-grandfather did it. And that trickles down to what we experience and what we see in today's society.
And we must not juxtapose the people and what they did at Michigan Avenue with the Black Lives Matter movement in terms of peaceful protesting. It's peaceful protest is going on every day, all day long.
Well, let me say this to you. Let me say this to you. And
okay,
listen,
that's totally different than people trying to steal stuff and using an excuse. Those are two separate issues, and people need to understand and have so much vitriol and passion about slavery as they did about the rioting.
When you protest anything, protest doesn't call for peace. Protest does not. There's no peaceful way. Oh, you can walk up and down the street with your little sign and everything.
Right.
But when you're talking about protesting, you are opposed to something that is not right. And you've been trying to tell people, that's why you've gotten to the level of protesting, because it's the information that you're supplying those in power has fallen on deaf ears. And so when you talk about protests, that means you're going to do whatever it takes to get your message across to the people who can make a decision. So peaceful protesting, people peaceful protests all the time. They peaceful protests all the time. They see it doesn't get them anywhere, and so they say, we've got to take protest to the level where it's meant to be.
Yeah.
to wake some people up and to get them to do something.
Because after those Milwaukee Bucks players, after they decided not to play, it was a lot of attention brought to the situation, obviously, and people say, well, I wish they didn't protest in that way, which I asked Coach Dicker which way would be comfortable for you for them to protest. But they were able to get on the phone. They had their owner get on the phone with some of the legislators and talk about some legislative changes that were like in the books that hadn't came to fruition yet. So that situation was enough where they had the eyes and the voice, the ear of the people in power to say, okay, what do we need to do? And, it just baffles me that people are saying, well, I wish they wouldn't do it in that way. We've been trying to do it in every other way for hundreds of years, and we have the same problem today as we've had 100 years ago.
Right. It's marvelous.
Well, as I was saying before, there was an attempt in the legislative branch, which wouldn't be the end-all and be-all, where the two sides can't get together. Actually, Tim Scott of South Carolina, African-American gentleman put through a bill, and the Republicans in the House put through a bill, and you'd think they could talk to each other, like Cory Booker even, and Tim Scott could get together. It would be beautiful. I mean, that would be a start, but it doesn't happen. That upsets me, too.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. It's politics, and these are professional politicians, right. And they negotiate to get their upper hand, and that's where we are regarding that. Our number here is 773-763-9278. Is that it? 9878? What's the number?
Who knows?
9278.
9278. It's the Rewind Sports 60. Yours truly, Jerry Riles, the beautiful, talented, lovely, and outstanding Lauren Cox, and the marvelous one, Dan Marver. I wanted to share with you guys and girls who are listening in, my theory on why we have the division that we have in this great city of ours, related to the CPD, Chicago Police Department, and of course the black and brown communities, in particular the Inglewood area and the Austin area. And this is my theory. I went to St. Rita High School over there when it was on 63rd and Claremont, and I was one of 6 blacks to graduate from there. Okay, they're probably, I'm stretching it, they're probably like 35 of us overall.
How many people were in your graduating class?
890 something or whatever. Okay? So, but my point being is, if you're familiar with the Catholic League, you're familiar with, there weren't many blacks during this time that were there, okay? But so I went to school with a lot of these white cats. Irish, Italian, Catholic. I went to school with them. So I was accepted because I'm Jerry Riles, first of all, but but the point is, I was able to learn the culture, okay, of my white brethren on the South Side, and they were able to learn a little bit about me. But I was always, well, you're not like them, or you're different, or you're not one of them. Meaning I wasn't, black because I was cool. I was, I was accepted, right, even though I was still black. You take those guys, and we're talking about 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, and their mentality. I learned a lot of things going to that school that I was blown away. I was like, wow, people live like this, and people do this stuff, and all this. My point being is, you take the Catholic League, you take the public leaguers, because the public leaguers used to come over and, beat up the Catholic Leaguers because they thought, we wore ties and all that stuff. But you take the Catholic leaguers, you take the public leaguers, and they grow up, and then you take the suburbanites who have no clue about city people, and they become people in power and position. So that mentality carries over from their high school days of being a Catholic leaguer, and Catholic leaguers stick together. And public leaguers, I guess, stick together. I'm not a public leaguer, but they stick together. And so when they get in a position of power, that mentality carries over.
Continues, yeah.
It carries over. So a lot of Catholic leaguers get jobs in the city because, you went to Mendel, you went to Leo, you went to Quigley, you went to Rita, you went to Lawrence, even though we have our own in-house fighting. But then you got someone from CVS, a Simeon, a Hubbard, or Curie, whatever the case may be. You're right. You gotta hate. Well, Kenwood. You're like, wait a minute. You're a public leaguer. Get your ass on over there. And now you got suburbanites coming in from Niles West and New Trier and Naperville, and hey, you're not one of us. You're not a part of us. And so that's where dissension comes in. And when you have that mentality and it trickles down over to the police force, you're a white Irish Catholic police officer. And I'm not saying it's for all of them, but I'm just saying the mentality. And you look at some black guy from Austin neighborhood or the Inglewood neighborhood who is a dropout from public league, you're like, this guy's a bum, he's a loser, he's a no good, he's out here destroying the neighborhood. Let's kick his ass. That's my theory. That's my opinion. That's what I believe. I see what's going on here.
Well, that too, but you can't forget the president. I mean, he's stuck.
I'm just talking about this city.
Well,
and the president is a whole different story. He's a whole different story.
In the cities all across the country. I mean, this stuff is rearing its ugly head.
But that's the mentality, Lauren. That's the mentality.
But people weren't as brazen to act on it now.
They've always been.
Well, it's more.
No,
it's more. It's more.
No, it's
okay.
No, I'm telling you. I walked the halls there and I saw the white boys. Well, I'm telling you,
Yeah, I believe you for sure.
They've all been around. He's just saying, y'all stupid enough to put me in this office or to give me the most power in this country. Hey, I'm going to use it. I'm going to flex my muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mentality. That's the mentality. But this is something that's been going on prior to this guy getting in office.
Yeah.
Way before that. It's just a mentality and a culture. Marvelous?
Well, I was opining over what you said. It's interesting that I started out at the public schools in Chicago, and then I eventually ended up in the suburbs, and there was racism in the suburban schools.
Sure.
even though I was my school actually had very few African Americans, but it was more of a economic, or so, as I can sort of.
But here's
remember.
the deal: it's even when you close the gap, and that's what we're seeing with these professional sports. When you close the gap as far as economics are concerned, and Lauren said it. Hey, listen, you got players who are multimillionaires, but they're driving down the street in their cars. The police will pull them over, not knowing who they are, so they're wondering how'd you get that flashy car?
Oh, sure.
And then they go, oh, you're LeBron James, and I'm just throwing a name out there.
Mm-hmm.
So even when you close the gap because you're educated and taught, the only way to succeed and survive is through education. But you now enter to a different realm, a different sphere, where you're still, I have the money. The great Walter Payton, I was going to say this before Coach hung up. The great Walter Payton was invited to a dinner. He was invited to a dinner. He left practice, whatever, late. As he walked through the doors of this dinner, they were having cocktails, correct? He overheard somebody say, hey, what's that N doing here? The guy that invited him to this cocktail party, he said, oh, that's Walter Payton. The guy that called him the N, what's that N doing here? His whole demeanor changed because he found, oh, that's Walter Payton. He goes over to Walter to greet him and shake his hand. And Walter looked at him in disgust, turned around, and walked out.
Right.
So you think that education and that economic gap is going to close and put you on the same level. But at the end of the day, you don't want to put on this brown suit because it's not going to benefit you.
It's what Doc Rivers, Clippers coach, said when he spoke about the police shooting up Jacob Blake. He said, it's amazing to me why we keep loving this country and this country does not love us back. That's it. Yeah.
What stands out to me is just watching the Republican convention and they're spewing this fear, right? Like, all you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung. We've been shot. And all you do is keep hearing about fear. It's amazing why we keep loving this country, and this country does not love us back.
There you go, Lauren.
There it is. How can you not feel that? How can you not feel that? I don't know. I don't know how you don't get it. Or try to get it.
It baffles me, Lauren. It really does baffle me because at the end of the day, my good friend Howard Brookins, he's the alderman on the 21st Ward. His family, they own the funeral home, Brookins Funeral Homes. At the end of the day, we all got to meet our maker. We all bleed, and we're all going to be 6 feet under or cremated or whatever case may be, but we're all in this together.
Rest in peace, Black Panther.
Yeah. Definitely. They're actually going to show Black Panther tonight on ABC, a special showing.
It was on last night, too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman, God bless you. May you rest in power. Closing thoughts, Marvelous?
Okay, well, again, I hope everybody can still enjoy sports despite everything. That's what we're here for, Rewind Sports.
Absolutely. R.I.P. Black Panther as well as Cliff Robinson as well.
God bless you. I was surprised and saddened by both the losses. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the week. Check us out on Comcast on Wednesday at 7 p.m., Channel 17, Channel 19, Channel 35 in the northern suburbs. And you can always check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and the RewindSports60.com. Thanks to Devin Tingle, our producer, and, of course, Mike Dicka, who hung up on us.
Because battery died.
It's the fastest hour in sports conversation. Take care, everybody. Good night.
Take me out to the ball game, Hall of Famer Andre Dawson.
All right. Let's hear it from the greatest fans ever. On three. 1, 2, 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back Forest Root. Root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Hey, let's get some runs. Thank you.
Still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave all the land of the free and the home of the
relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
The Rewind Sports 60. From the city of big shoulders, the jewel of the Midwest, comes a sports show that's one of a kind. From iconic players to iconic stadiums to iconic teams, this is my kind of town. Chicago! And the Rewind Sports 60 is my kind of show. From Air Jordan to sweetness to Papa Bear Hallis, this city works hard, but plays even harder. Danny Carlino and Jerry Riles bring you the Rewind Sports 60. Live. The Rewind Sports 60 starts now.
Welcome, everybody, to the Rewind Sports 60 WCPT 8:20 a.m. We are live in our WCPT studios, and we're also streaming live on Facebook.com. So please follow us and join in on the conversation. The fastest sports hour in America, in the country, in the world, pretty much, all over. And we finally have sports, guys. Woo!
Kind of.
A variation of it for sure, but we still have sports, so lots to talk about, of course, in the world of sports. I want to get right to it. Join in on the conversation. Give us a call at 773-763-9278. And I want to get right to my esteemed panel. First of all, the marvelous one, Dan Marver. Dan, I'm waiting to see what your reaction is, because you've been waiting and praying and waiting and all of that for baseball.
I was outside Wrigley Field and Guaranteed Rate Field, and they wouldn't let me in. I figured that they'd let me in, but, I don't have credentials, so I had to watch it at home.
We got to get you some credentials.
Yeah, I don't have credentials. I had to watch it at home. But it's fun to see baseball. I mean, and they're piping in some crowd noise and
people. Did you see the people who had their cutout pictures? I didn't get the memo on that. I would have.
Yeah, I mean the Sox are. You could have bought a little thing for the Sox.
Yeah,
I heard you could.
Was it like $100?
Yeah, you could have done that. And then of course we'll talk about. There were some fans across the street on the rooftops. We'll talk about that later at Wrigley. And the Cubs won 2 out of 3, and the Sox lost 2 out of 3. But it's going to be 16 teams that make the playoffs, so it's kind of like the regular season isn't going to matter that much. What does that tell you?
Alrighty, and my co-host, the amazing, wonderful, illustrious Jerry Riles. Jerry, how do you feel about actually getting to see some real sports being played? How do you feel? Are you overjoyed? You can't speak?
I'm speakless.
I know.
Lauren, I'm speechless.
We didn't think it would happen.
I have to pinch myself.
Yeah.
I was actually sitting on my grandmother, may she rest in peace. She used to call the sofa, the couch, the doofo. I was sitting on the doofo watching baseball.
Yeah,
yes.
In WNBA, too.
I was sitting on my doofo watching baseball.
I couldn't believe it.
I wasn't watching the WNBA.
Okay, well, they
I'm sorry about that, but I wasn't watching the WNBA.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare I sit there and even think about trying to watch the WNBA. No offense, but I commend the women in WNBA for all that they've done in support of the movement by walking off the court.
Hey.
By walking off the court,
Absolutely,
Lauren.
yes. For MLB, everybody was so touch moved and inspired that they decided to kneel. When the WNBA, they've been doing this for years. They started it. They're the trailblazers. So I'm interested to see Craig Hodges' take on that.
Portland is the trailblazers.
Well, they're the social justice trailblazers.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, how come the women can step up like that, but,
God bless them. I mean,
nobody else can.
They stepped the hell up.
They've been stepping the hell up.
They stepped up and said, we walking off the court, and we don't give a damn.
Yes.
Damn.
Absolutely.
I was like, whoa, hey.
I love it. They showed it.
Get out of the way.
Okay.
Holy Moses. Don't let Coach Mike Dicker hear you say that. I see that, though. We'll get an opportunity to talk about what the coach had to say, Lauren.
Please.
What'd you think?
I think that's ridiculous. He built his championship. He is who he is off of the brothers who played for him. So, I mean, for him to be that tone deaf about that situation,
But Lauren, he said he'll sit down and tell you, and hopefully we reached out to Coach Mike Dick. If you haven't had an opportunity to check it out on TMZ, I believe either yesterday, I guess it was yesterday or maybe late in the week, Coach Dicker was on TMZ and was asked a question because he is the chairman of the X League, the
XFL.
Evolving of the Lingerie League, and now it's called the X League, and he's the chairman of the league. And the question was posed to Coach Mike Dicker, the Super Bowl winning head coach for your Chicago Bears, because he's the chairman. If the players elected to kneel, during the national anthem. We have a problem with it. We have the sound for it. We'll get an opportunity to play. Well, actually, Devin, we do have the sound, correct? Coach Mike Ditka said, hey, if he had it his way, they'll be standing. They'll be standing.
Yeah, he said it's disrespecting the flag. How many times?
Devin King, our producer, play the cut for us real quick.
These baseball players now, different teams. Last night watching baseball, you got the Reds kneeling, the A's, the Giants. A lot of teams are kneeling. Athletes are kneeling. In your league here, you're the chairman of this thing. Is that going to be allowed if the women want to take a knee during the anthem? What's the policy on that for you guys?
Well, if it was up to me, I'd say no. If you can't respect our national anthem, get the hell out of the country. Then that's the way I feel. Of course, I'm old-fashioned, so I'm only going to say what I feel. I think there's a way that you protest, and there's a way you don't protest. You don't protest against the flag, and you don't protest against this country, who's given you the opportunity to make a living playing a sport that you never thought would happen. So I don't want to hear all the crap. You want to try it, try it. You don't, it's okay.
You don't want to hear the crap, Lauren.
I don't want to hear that crap. He's talking about how tone deaf you played with and had players of color play for you. How can he be this tone deaf? I'm very disappointed. I mean, well, he's said other things before in the past.
Yeah, he said that.
It's disappointing. Point blank, period. It's disappointing to hear him say that and be so emphatic about it. Especially with the things that are happening in this time. Even if you believed it, you don't sit up there and say that. I'm disappointed in him. Won't be going to that restaurant anymore.
Well, it's a lot of people's not going to go to it. Unfortunately, Lauren, is because they closed on Chestnut there. I think the only one that's open in Oak Brook, I think it is. Yeah. Marvelous. Yeah. Your thoughts from the coach's comments about his perspective on kneeling during the national anthem.
Well, obviously, there are people that feel that way. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. I mean, First Amendment right. So, I mean, it's obviously that it's not agreeable to everybody. And we've had a lot of issues in the last few weeks since about Memorial Day where there's controversy and differing opinions. And, if somebody wants to kneel, they should kneel. I mean, what the heck?
Well, the WNBA, as Lauren stated, they opened up their season and they walked off the court.
Absolutely. I mean, because of the incidents since Floyd's death, it's been an eye-opening experience if people would just open themselves up to allow themselves to see what's really going on in this country. It's not just so simple difference of opinion. This man lost his life. And it could be my son. It could be you, Jerry. Why? Simply because of the color of our skin. It's a very serious situation. And for people to just casually say, oh, it's about the flag, it really bothers African Americans because it speaks to how other people don't understand the urgency of the situation. It's not about a flag. It's not about a piece of cloth. It's about human life that's being lost because of these stigmas and these ideals around black people.
Right.
I mean, for him to just be insensitive and just throw that out and put it and make it about the flag, that's the frustrating part. It's not about a piece of cloth.
Right. Which is a symbol. Marvelous.
There's obviously human life being lost in Chicago. You guys stop killing each other, for God's sakes.
Well, I mean, nobody should be killing, and that's another. Here's the deal, Marvelous, you're right. But the problem is, yes, stop killing each other. It's a simple Psych 101. You've taken Psych, I've taken Psych, you've taken Psych. And you guys have heard the experiment, the example where you put, we'll put 25 rats in a box area, a maze area. And you put 25 blocks of cheese in each area where those rats are, correct? And then either every day or every week, you remove one block of cheese with the same amount of rats. And after 25 days, you have one block of cheese. What's happening to those rats who had their own cheese at one particular time? They're fighting and killing each other over that one block of cheese that at one point in time, they had their own. So you take that philosophy and that logic and you apply it to human culture and human societies, and you put it in particular areas. That's exactly what's taking place in the black and brown communities here in Chicago on the south and west sides. That's what the struggle, the movement is all about systemic racism. You talk about stop killing each other. Well, if you replace jobs, put jobs in the community, put education there in the community, take the guns out of community, and take the drugs out of community, the killing will stop. It doesn't happen frequently. The city in its own right, there's going to be crime everywhere, right? That's just human nature, how we live. Mm-hmm. But you can't tell me that, and people have tried to tell me, white people have tried to tell me, but you can't tell me that these people in the Inglewood community, in the Austin community, the south and west sides of the city, the only thing they want to do is kill each other because that's what they want to do. But if you go to Wicker Park, you go to Lincoln Park, you go to Rogers Park, and they still have crime in those particular areas. But you don't see the level of crime and shootings and murders taking place in those particular areas. Why? Because the amount of drugs and the amount of guns aren't flooding those communities. They're not. And the jobs,
on purpose.
The jobs are there. The education is there. So if you replace the drugs and the guns with jobs and education, I will guarantee you, like Michael Jordan said, 99.9% sure that the crime, the murders, marvelous, they will go down.
Well, who's going to do that, though?
Yeah, you got the solution. Now let's implement it. How do we do that?
Well, I'm not the mayor of Chicago, and I'm not the governor of Illinois, and I'm surely not the president of the great United States of America that we live in.
Your boy from down the street.
No, I'm not getting in Kanye's West now. I'm not getting in his way. I'm talking
about Barack Obama. I'm not talking about Kanye West.
But if you want to give us a call, our number is 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. It's Jerry Riles, Lauren Cox, and of course the marvelous one, Dan Marver. If you have any comments, we're certainly going to talk about Mike Ditka and his position on the national anthem. I want to hear from you if you have any thoughts on Duck Coach making his comments one way or the other. We're also going to get an opportunity. He's a friend of the program, no question about it. He is Craig Hodges, former Chicago Bull, NBA champion, three-point champ, joining us shortly to talk about the update as far as Black Lives Matter, the movement, and how things are going on the front, Marvelous.
On the front?
On the front.
On the front of what?
On the front of this movement.
Oh.
Marvin, how you been doing? You looking good? You got your mask and everything?
Yeah, I'm back at my regular work location, sanitizing every counter, every doorknob. It's out of control, but we have to do it.
But people don't think so. And, I'm in the hospital sometimes, and we were talking to the nurses this week, and they said, I said, how are things going? They said the cases are back up. Mm-hmm. There's a COVID-19 surge. Mm-hmm. These are direct from the healthcare practitioners that are on the front line, right. Conspiracy people who don't think this is true. And they said the numbers are back like they were in March. Mm-hmm. But it's young people, right. People in their 30s.
Right.
This is still serious, guys.
Right.
People still need to be just as vigilant as they were back in February and March. You can't let up because people are dying. The young people are getting it. Of course, younger people are able to recover. But this is something that you just don't want to deal with because even the healthcare practitioners are saying, we don't have the answers. We're just, experimenting as we go along, essentially. It's a lot we don't know about this. So people need to be smart.
Yeah.
Just stay home.
That's it.
Social distance, all of that. So.
Get your mask, your Rewind Sports 60 mask.
Yes.
Go the Rewind Sports 60.
Where's my Rewind Sports 60?
I think it's in the mail. It is coming.
Okay, all right.
It is coming.
Just making sure. Yeah, I see you got yours, but
Yeah,
okay.
You will have yours for sure.
But it would be great if everybody could stay home, but some people have to feed their family.
No, well, a lot of people.
Well, I'm talking about the people partying.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of
people. Partying.
Yeah,
like your boy Lou Williams, and we'll talk about him.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to talk about Lou Williams as well. Let's go out to our TR60 line. Tommy, calling from what part of Chicago, Tommy? How are you?
First of all, let me say hello to all three of you, and I'll be tuning into your show. But let's start with one. China posted and said that their outbreak, it took them 4 months to get restarted. So if you stop and you do the math in Chicago, March 16th, they closed everything down. And so basically nothing should have been opened back up until July. But, oh, wait a minute, pump the brakes. So they come out with this, let's give money and this, that, and the other. 47 million individuals lose their jobs, and people can't get unemployment. You had the perfect powder keg going into all of this that we see going on. I want to leave you with this. The bottom line of it is, the bigger question is, why is it so difficult for people to recognize and understand that if you destroy communities, if you take everything out of a community that every other community has, what do you think? It's not a block of cheese. It's absolute decades of the same old thing warmed over. And I want to leave you with this one. I love baseball and basketball, but to sit up and watch TV and look at a bunch of cardboard cutouts and stuff, I'm asking myself, hey, Tommy, either you drunk, high, or this is one hell of a nightmare. I love you three.
Wow.
Thanks, Tommy.
I feel the same way, Tommy. Jeez.
It is a nightmare, but it's a nightmare we have.
Yeah, it is a nightmare, and it's a nightmare. Like you said, it's not where we want to be, and we do want to wake up from it. But this is what we have to deal with. Yeah. This is what we have to deal with. As far as the cardboard cutouts are concerned, I gotta say to you, first of all, you have to understand, sports, there are entertainment, okay? Whether you choose sports to watch, whether you choose the opera to go to, whether you choose a concert or, whatever the case may be, it's a form of entertainment that we gravitate toward to remove ourselves from the day-to-day struggles and problems that we experience. And it's an escape for, 3 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever the case may be. So I think that's the approach you have to take when you're watching sports or whatever type of entertainment that you engage in. The cardboard cutouts, I think I got to give kudos to the marketing people around the world of sports. And Brooks Boyer over at the Chicago White Sox, and Lauren, you talked about where your cutout was. I didn't know that they were only going to be selling 1,200 cutouts, because seriously, I was looking to get the Rewind Sports 60 cutouts and put in the stands. Mm-hmm. One, because how vain we are, but two, more importantly, is to support, what's going on. And I think it's pretty interesting to see the cutouts, but you got to commend the marketing people for coming up with some ways to keep some attention while you're watching on television. But the important thing to note and to stay focused on is the fact that there's entertainment out there for us. And these guys are putting themselves in a position to help entertain us, to take our minds off of the day-to-day, challenges that we face, because you have to understand and keep in mind, although it's not plastered across the newspapers and on your daily, local news at night, but the rise in domestic abuse, suicides, alcoholism, drug use, the numbers, we talk about the COVID numbers going up. I can almost assure you that those numbers are increasing as well, have increased over the past 3-4 months, because people had no substitute to escape from.
Right. And in addition, kids aren't getting their inoculations. People that have cancer, it's undetected. There's a lot of stuff that's being delayed. But, the thing with as it is, I remember Jack Brickhouse used to always say that the baseball game would take you away from your troubles and that's what it's all about. Really.
It's America's favorite pastime. And I think if we all keep it in perspective, Lauren, we can understand and kind of get through this. And so, it's not the end all be all, and it's not the best solution, but it's a direction toward getting back to some sort of normalcy of what we used to be accustomed to.
That's what I was going to say. When you get to do the little things like going to get your hair done and, the little things that we used to could do with no problem, I think it gives you a sense of normalcy and that, okay, it's going to be okay. Things will get back, maybe not to where they were before, but we will get through this. And so I think that was the sentiment behind, for me as a fan, that's the sentiment behind being happy that it started back and, of course, professional reasons for myself. Mm-hmm. But it was an issue with the players because you do have to think, is this a distraction?
Right.
For them to get back to sports. Does it take away from what the true issue is that I talked about earlier? So I really think that the players are going to try to infuse and have as much focus be on these issues of the injustices that African Americans face every day.
Right.
Make that front and center. You have it on the Toronto Raptors bus. They have it on the court.
Right.
Players are going to protest, and we'll just wait and see exactly who is. But even Paul George and LeBron James during their press conferences, they talked about Breonna.
You were doing very well until you went to that guy.
Stop it.
You were doing very well.
Please. They talked about Breonna Taylor.
Yes.
And how the officers who murdered her, assassinated her, essentially, they're still not charged.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. And that's why I commend the WNBA women for walking off the court, because there's no justice regarding Breonna Taylor.
No.
That's ridiculous. And now they've been trying to spin it and accuse the boyfriend of shooting at them, and they fired back to protect themselves. So it's totally ridiculous. But I again, as you all know, and everyone listening and whoever knows me, I always have a bone to pick with your guy, LBJ.
Yeah. What's the problem? His
now
remember,
he didn't speak. The players said they were going to put a name on the back of their jerseys. They were going to put a slogan or a phrase to support the Black Lives Matter.
And Jimmy Butler says he doesn't want any name.
Which I respect that and appreciate that, because he said, "Hey, I could be that person, so I'm not going to put anything on my back." But for LeBron to say, "Hey, I'm not going to put it on there because I don't want to do it."
So don't try to add anything extra to it. He just said he didn't want to do it.
But then he comes out and say, "Well, it's not a movement."
Well, this is
Black Lives Matter is not a movement.
This is what he said today, well, not today, but when he was interviewed, he said a lot of people talk about Black Lives Matter as a movement, as you were saying, Jerry. It's not a movement. When you're black, it's a lifestyle. When you wake up and you're black, that's what it is. In America, in society, ain't been no damn movement for us. I said, bravo, LeBron James. I mean.
But it is a movement.
He just told you it ain't no when you black and you waking up every day and you may lose your life because of the color of your skin. He's saying that it's more than just, again, what we were saying earlier, a piece of cloth, a movement. It's a lifestyle, something that they have to live with every day.
It's not they have to live with it. We gotta live with it.
We have to live
Believe
with
it. Yes. I know that, and I get that. But now,
what problem did you have with his statements?
The problem is, it is a movement, because when you have not only just a city, not only just a region, not only just a country, you have the entire world backing a movement, because they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and enough is enough, and they're demanding change.
Mm-hmm.
That's a movement.
Right.
The actions, from what he described, is how we got to the movement. He was right on that.
Mm-hmm.
But the movement is to make a change and to move from one thinking process or physical action of process to a different one, a better one, a one of equality. So that's what movement is. Like, he moved his ass from Cleveland to Miami, and then he moved his ass back to Cleveland, and then he moved his ass to Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. That was called a movement.
But he is more than words.
He moved his ass to make some more money.
He is more than words, because he's put his money into organizations working on registering voters and reversing voter suppression measures.
So here's what he needs to do.
Parts of the nation,
here's what he needs to do. And I'm using my hand sanitizer. Here's what he needs to do.
Tell LeBron what he needs to do. Go ahead.
Did you see, by the way?
Watch this. I'm about to get upset. Watch this. Watch this.
I was going to change this.
No. You're not changing it until we're ready to change it. I'm about to get upset. You know what he needs to do?
Yes.
Just be quiet and keep dribbling that basketball.
Oh, please. Yeah, okay. All right, Michael Jordan.
Speaking of sanitizer, did you see where Rizzo offered the first base, the guy that got a single? He offered some sanitizer to him. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, and kudos to the Marquee Network. And hopefully we'll get to do some business and some work with them. But kudos to the Marquee Network and Comcast for finally coming to an agreement so that people can, watch the Cub game.
5 in the morning. First game.
But I did not want to watch Rizzo spitting.
Oh, yeah.
On a close-up. I don't want to see that. No. Is that the hand sanitizer you were talking about?
But he had sanitizer, and he offered it to the Brewer player who just got in a single.
Yeah.
Is what I saw. Yeah.
Got you, man. Hey, we're going to take a short time out here. If you want to jump in, our number is 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. No, LeBron James he's quite a young man, and I wish more people were like LeBron James. And I'm sure if they had his money, they probably would try to be like LeBron.
All of them, it's paying them to have money. They're not doing what he did.
We could talk about Mookie Betts later, too.
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys cashing in during this pandemic. There's no question about it. Congratulations. And they're brothers of color,
That's
Marvelous.
Right. There you go.
They're brothers of color. We need the money.
Okay.
We need some coming this way, Lauren.
Yes, we do. It's coming.
It's the Rewind Sports 60. Yours truly, Jerry Riles, along with the marvelous one, Dan Marver, and the lovely, talented, beautiful Lauren Cox.
The Rewind Sports 60.
About a month ago, the 5 of us made a protest in Arlington Heights downtown, and since then we've been reached out by organizers of Mundelein, Vernon Hills, Wheeling, and a few others. And we all got together, so there's 15 of us who had meetings for the past 1 month to organize all of this. We brought in vendors that are Black-owned businesses, and we have voter registration. We have Black artists and singers and musicians here also. COVID testing as well. And then we also we put this protest in Wheeling because there's a lot of gentrification going on right now, and we had some issues that were posted about the Wheeling police. And we wanted to address the cops that work for them and call them out and hold them accountable. So that was our goal for specific demands for this protest was towards Wheeling. Overall, in the future, we really want to make sure that we hold our suburbs accountable just as much as we're holding our cities, and how protests are really strong and evident there, and we want to keep that momentum going on in the suburbs also.
When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? All right, let's go. We gonna say a local person's name. I say, what's his name? Y'all say Justice Howe. One day on the red. What's his name? What's his name? What's his name? What's his name? Will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood? I have a dream. What's his name? One day. What's his name? Even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with injustice. What's his name? Sweltering with the heat of oppression. What's his name? Be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. What are you laughing at? This ain't funny. My 4 little children one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I am a dream today. Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its governor having his lips one day right in Alabama, those black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. Black lives, they matter now. Black lives, they matter now. Black lives, they matter now. I said black lives, they matter here. One day every valley shall be I said black lives, they matter every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed in all the light. Shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the thing that I go back to with this faith. We will be able to stand a storm of peace. With this faith, we will be able to triumph the things that this world beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together. Knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day for all the brothers to be able to take new meaning. My country, sweet land,
Say her name.
land where my love, land
Don't get weak on me. I said, when do we want it? When do we want it? I said, when do we want it? I said, when do you want it? And if you don't get it, if we don't get it, if we don't get it, if we
let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains
if
of
we
New York,
don't get it,
let freedom ring. Like the Alleghenies.
no peace, no justice,
Let freedom ring from the Smoky Mountains of Colorado. Let freedom ring.
Black lives ain't matter now.
Not only that,
Black lives ain't
let
matter
freedom
now.
ring from Stone Mountain.
Black lives ain't matter here.
Let freedom ring from Lookout
Black
Mountain
lives
to
ain't matter now.
Let freedom ring from every hill and whole hill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we let it ring from every village and every house, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all the brothers, that black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old hymn, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. If you don't get it,
Shut it down! Shut it down! This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Our streets! Our streets!
I say to you today, my friend,
Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Don't shoot!
so even though we face difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream. One day, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created.
Show me what democracy looks like.
I have a dream
Show me what democracy looks
that one day on the red hills of Georgia,
Whose street?
sons of former slaves and the sons of former slaves will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream. One day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My 4 little children one day live in a nation where they will not.
An everyday African American or a black person in America, and they get the same looks, but it's because of their skin color. So I can't.
Basically, being black is not a crime. That's what this shirt says.
Yeah, it gives us a little bit of taste of what their entire lives are like, and that's why we're even more empowered to keep continue doing such things.
But again, you said that there are people who've actually been flipped off from wearing these shirts.
Literally just the guy stopped right next to us and just flipped us off.
And this is in Wheeling on Dundee Road.
Yeah. And this is one of the reasons why we started this protest. We don't want this type of
we're like in the
treatment.
suburbs and stuff, and
obviously people think it doesn't happen here, but it does. And also for Arlington Heights Facebook page, they posted our banner and like post flyer on there. It got taken down multiple times.
Even though the Blue Lives Matter event is not taken down, people can say whatever they want about it. And we posted our event. It's taken down in less than 24 hours, multiple times.
So long term, what's the goal here?
Basically just like spread awareness to like the suburbs. Like it's just like I don't know. There's maybe like I've seen like maybe 5 people from our high school show up here. And it's really sad because like the one on tonight's we had a lot. And it's like this needs to keep going. Like this needs to be heard.
It's
like,
not
it doesn't stop. Like exactly, it's not a trend. Like this is all go. It's come to support us and do something about it. And
it's a movement, and a movement means it's a fundamental, necessary change is taken afterwards. So from all that we're seeing is like we need our Congress to listen, and they can make a change.
A change is happening. Like,
yes,
especially with this, like it's definitely changes happening.
We're seeing one of the things I've heard is that America has been better since like a few years ago, but I don't want to see it slowly getting better. I want to see it change right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait anymore.
But why is it so powerful for you, ladies, being non-African American, non-black, but your passion and your dedication and your support is so strong? Why is that?
Because we're allies. Yeah, we are allies, and I think that through all of the social media posts, we've been able to stay educated about this stuff and actually fight for what is right. This is human rights that we're talking about. It's nothing political. So we're fighting for like our friends and family for this cause. Yeah, like the life that I am given, I want others to experience it too, and not be like taken away just because of the skin of their color, because that's not something they can change. That's something you're born with. And also, like I have friends who are African American, and I love them, so I want to fight for them, because as a friend, that's what I'm supposed to do for them.
Not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
The Rewind Sports 60.
Hey, listen, it's Jerry Riles on location, Clark Avenue on the north side of Chicago in the
beautiful, beautiful city of Chicago. Protesters are heading north to the downtown Chicago area regarding the protest and all the energy that's here in Chicago regarding the George Floyd murder that took place in Minneapolis 8 days ago. We're right here outside of, what is it? Pasta Bowl, and I'm here, what's your name? What is it? Taylor, how are you? Hey, man, thank you so very much. We're live on the Instagram, man. And I just wanted to talk with you and ask you, you guys caught my attention with the music that you're playing. Mayor Lori Lightfoot said that she is going to lift the restrictions tomorrow, June 3rd, and allow people to come on out. What are your thoughts on everything that's transpired here in the city of Chicago?
I don't really have a whole lot to say on it. Just trying to do our part to show our support for the black community, for people at large. We want to be part of the solution.
Whose idea was to play? Is a remix, Dr. Martin Luther King's famous speech in the 60s. Whose idea was to play this? That's house music, by the way, which is a product of Chicago. Whose idea was to play this?
All of us. We came up with it on our playlist. We got a playlist right now. It's got a lot of stuff talking about what's going on in the world, and we thought it'd be a good idea to play today.
And what's the reaction that you've received? You caught my attention. What was your reaction?
Everybody positive.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How long have you guys been doing this so far?
Hour and a half.
And you plan on to continue to go all night?
I might take the big speakers down because the neighbors might get mad about the noise.
Oh, really?
But we'll keep it playing inside for sure.
Okay. Now, as far as lifting moving to the next phase regarding the city of Chicago, and they're going to open up, how are you guys planning on accommodating customers coming to your place?
It's going to be tough here. We don't really have any outdoor seating. Our other two locations we do, so we'll definitely be ready.
Where are the other locations?
Lincoln Square and Wicker Park.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so very much. God bless you. Stay safe.
All right.
Take care. Well, folks, let me tell you something. Chicago is rallying behind each other. There's no question about it. And again, it's yours truly, Jerry Riles, with the Rewind Sports 60. You can check out our show every Sunday, 6 to 7 p.m. on WCPT 820 a.m. We are streaming live, ladies and gentlemen, and I want you to get a list. I love the music, the house music that's being pumped. I certainly love what's going on, and I love if we can take a look and get a turnaround. You can see people, protesters, peacefully walking down Clark Street here in Chicago on their way to their site. I understand what's going on is that everyone's meeting. They congregated just outside of Wrigley Field, I believe. They headed south on Clark Avenue, and everybody is walking toward Lincoln Park Zoo to gather. There are people, I don't know if you can make a look down all the way. They have a car full of water. They have a car full of water that they're providing for all the protesters who are heading out. The temperatures here in Chicago, the great city of Chicago, are over 90 degrees. It's about 92 degrees right now. It's a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday, June 2nd. It's extremely hot. So there are people out here who are making sure that the protesters are staying hydrated and that they're prepared for the humidity here in Chicago. If we can, I'll come up and talk with these nice people. Hi, you guys. You mind talking? We're streaming live on Instagram. What's your name?
My name is Brian.
Ryan?
Yeah.
I'm Jerry. Good to
nice
see
to
you.
Meet you.
What? If I can ask, I see you guys have the water, but what's going on?
We just organizers of this march made a call to for volunteers for resources to hand out resources along the route because it's real hot today. So we answered that call, just came out and we're just handing out water. Got AC running in the car if people were too hot, supplies and stuff like that.
And what is your reaction to everything that's going on regarding the protests, not only here in the city of Chicago, of course in Minneapolis where it all started, but all throughout the United States? What's your reaction to it?
Well, I want action. That's my reaction. And to be honest, I don't want to draw a lot of attention to myself. I'm just looking and asking how I can help and trying to listen and work better on myself, talk to my family, talk to my friends, and try to get everybody motivated to see this when this is over too. Well, it's never over, but after this march is done, what more can we do? How can we be better allies?
No, I appreciate it, and a lot of people that are checking things out appreciate it too. And why did you say it's a long time in coming?
This needed to happen. I mean, people have been rioting for years, but what has changed?
What do you say to those people? Because, it's all proclaimed to be a peaceful protest. But of course, I'm sure you guys have watched the local news as well as the national news and some international news that there have been some some looters going around taking advantage of an opportunity. What do you say about that?
I'd say those are
I can't tell them how to react.
and those are derivative crimes of the greater crime of white supremacy in this country. It has a long history and caused a lot more death and violence than we've seen just these few days. And it's painful, and it's not a coherent political strategy, it's pain. And we need to answer that pain with action.
I thank you. God bless you. Keep up the good work, the good fight. Stay safe. Folks, that's Chicago at work. There's no question about it. It's the beautiful city of Chicago, the diversity here in Chicago. I'm lifelong bred Chicagoan. I grew up on the south side. I live in the northern suburbs, but I frequent the entire city, north, south, even the east part, which is the lake, and of course the west side. And everywhere you go, Chicagoans embrace each other. There's Chicago Finest, Chicago Blue, and on their way down toward the protest site, just outside of Lincoln Park Zoo. We're going to be heading that way as well. It's the Rewind Sports 60, streaming live on Instagram. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. It's long overdue, folks. You see some protesters there? Thank you. And they continue to pump out Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. house music. Let freedom ring is what you hear echoing in the skies outside Chicago's north side. And we're just walking up and down Clark Avenue. As you can hear, some people are blowing their horns in support of the protesters. We have the cyclists and Mayor Lori Lightfoot doing everything she possibly can, but she says she is going to open up the city partially tomorrow, June 3rd, as scheduled, as planned, in the battle against COVID-19. Now, some people are afraid and concerned about the protesters, and many of them are, as you can see, they have their mask on, and they are trying to stay protected, but many people are concerned about the spread of COVID-19 because of all the protests and the closeness and everything that's going on. We got gentlemen working here on their establishment as well, keeping things boarded up in anticipation of some potential looting that could happen. So a lot of people, we've seen a lot of businesses here in the Wrigleyville area, the Lakeview area, where they are trying to protect their businesses just in case the protests get out of hand and the looters take advantage. We're going to wrap things up. We hope you are practicing safe welfare. You're being safe. You're being smart. But also, you show your unity, your solidarity with the protesters here in Chicago and around the country. And I understand there's a revolution that is being preached and a revolution that the young generation are trying to spread the message out there, but I want everyone to know and understand the message has been heard. Now it's time to take a proactive approach toward it and not to take a disadvantage by vandalizing and committing criminal acts to get your word across, to get your message across. It's important. It's very important that it's peaceful protests. And we've seen a lot of police officers, a lot of police sergeants, a lot of police stations around the country who are agreeing with the protesters. We've seen some kneeling in Dallas, in Atlanta, in Minneapolis. We've seen a lot of police officers and police sergeants supporting the protesters. So they understand and they do hear. And it's a long, long process. We're talking about 400 years of oppression. 400 years of oppression for the black man, the black race. Now is the time. There is no question about it. But there has to be in a peaceful manner, a peaceful approach. And as you hear in the background, house music blaring with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was about peace and love. And I know there are some out there that say that didn't work. It's time for the approach of Malcolm X. Take your foot off my neck. I had a buddy of mine that said, Jerry, stop singing and start swinging. I don't condone that. I don't propose that. but I do understand. Keep following us on the Rewind Sports 60, our website, therewindsports60.com, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, LinkedIn. We have the fastest hour in sports conversation, the Rewind Sports 60. We have the best sports show in the city of Chicago. And you can check us out every Sunday, 6 p.m., WCPT 820 a.m. It's the Rewind Sports 60.
I say to you today, my friend, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream.
Guy has seen a lot happen in this great town as well, and we're pleased to welcome him on our TR60 hotline, and we're pleased to call him a friend of the program, and he just got off the set over there at NBC Sports Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, you love him. He's phenomenal. He's fabulous, and he is half of the new morning team at ESPN Radio AM 1000 in the greatest city in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, on our TR60 hotline, the one, the only, he's David Kaplan. What's up, Cap Man? How are you?
My guy, JR, Jerry Riles. What's going on, kid? I'm literally just getting into my car. Just got done doing baseball night in Chicago, and honored to be on your show again.
Well, you know what, Cap? It's always a pleasure, and it's always an honor to get you for a couple minutes, because you certainly are the hardest man working in Chicago, the hardest working man in Chicago, whether it's radio, whether it's television, whether it's doing appearances, or whether it's just spending family time. The Cap Man is the hardest working man in Chicago sports, brother. Hey, what a weekend as far as baseball is concerned regarding this great city we live in, the Crosstown Classic. Not what we were anticipating at the start of the year and the start of the baseball season, but in this condensed 60-game season that we're experiencing and watching these two teams finally come together, brother. What was your thoughts watching this series and the Chicago White Sox just hammer things out?
Well, look, this is a really talented White Sox team, and I don't think anyone's surprised that after these, years of rebuilding, that Rick Hahn, a really intelligent baseball man, has been able to accumulate a number of really impressive assets. But I also don't think anybody saw the White Sox hitting like 4 billion home runs in a 3-game series. Jose Abreu was amazing. I mean, amazing in capital letters. He just was torturing Cubs pitching. But the thing that was most disappointing to me about the weekend, not that my Cubs lost 2 of 3, because that can happen, it's the fact that their offense looks impotent. I mean, Kyle Schwarber bails him out with a 2-run home run after a Javi Baez double. But beyond that, the offense has not looked good for a while. Very spotty, very up and down. Same thing we saw in 2018, the last half, 2019 up and down. So at some point, do you look at this team and go, maybe 2016 was the outlier? Because for the last 2.5 seasons, we have not seen great offensive play from guys who look like great offensive players.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's interesting because I'm watching, I mentioned before you got on the air, I'm watching, in the Hall of Fame room. I got it on NBC Sports Chicago, of course, your home, but I'm also watching on the Marquee Network. So I'm getting both perspective from either side of town. And it's interesting because you talk about the lackluster non-performance of the Cubs offensively. My wife and I sitting there watching this thing, and she's a diehard Cub fan just like you are, Catman. She asked the same thing. What the hell is wrong with Javi Baez? What's wrong with him, man? And this is the guy that you, over the past few years, you definitely were looking forward to seeing him jumpstart the offense if they got into some type of rut. He, along with Wilson Contreras, but what the heck is going on with Javi Baez? It seems like, between his two ears, man, that there's a little bit of fog going there, and that's something that's uncharacteristic when you talk about Javi.
Yeah, I think, Jerry, the biggest problem that Javi has had so far this year is his confidence is a little shaken because he struggled, and that has led to him expanding his strike zone. Expand your strike zone, all of a sudden you're trying to hit a 4-run home run with nobody on base. And so he chases breaking balls. He sees something coming in, and it dives literally 8-10 inches off the plate, and he has no chance of hitting it with a boat oar, and he swings at it. So he's just out of sorts right now. He needs to continue to string good plate appearances together, get hard contact. The pitch that Dylan Cease made him when he gave up the double, that was just a mistake. Why you are throwing Javi something middle in where he can get the head of the bat on it with that incredible bat speed, and he drives it into the left field vines for a double, and then the pitch to Kyle Schwarber, that was just a really good piece of hitting, and a pitch again that was up, out over the plate, and allowed him to get his hands active, and he takes it out of the ballpark. So that was a tiring Dylan Cease. And sometimes you can watch and go, what do you mean tiring? He's still throwing 97.
Right.
It's not so much muscling up and getting velocity, it's command and location. And that was why the Cubs were able to come back and win that game.
Dave, this is Dan here in the studio. You're absolutely right. I mean, right now, of course, Chris Bryant's out, but they have Baez, Schwarber, Contreras, Bodie, and Horner are all hitting under 200, and that's no good. So obviously the offense is a problem, and they've even the bullpen. They tried Kimbrel today, and he couldn't finish the game, and they had to bring in Jeffers. So they have a lot of issues, but they're still in first place. So, and there's going to be so many teams in the playoffs, they'll probably still make the playoffs anyway.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, they're a first-place baseball team. They're 3 games in front in the division, and they're going to play a really lousy Tigers team. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to win, but, the Tigers just pounded Cleveland on Sunday. So there's major league players on that roster, and the Cubs have to find a way to get up on Monday and find a way to win a baseball game. That's what I always like to say. Lou Piniella taught me that a long time ago. He said, son, you're not going to have 11 runs every day. You're not going to throw a 2-hitter every day. Wake up, get moving, get some breakfast, get to the ballpark, and find a way to win a damn baseball game. So that's where the Cubs are at. Right now, everything looks like a beach ball to the White Sox. So both teams are in different places. Sox are battling. I think they're 2 games back in their division. The Cubs are 3 up in their division. But the Cubs don't have a Twins or Indians in their division that they've got to deal with. So they're in a better place to try and ride out some of these hiccups.
Yeah, I think the White Sox are 1 game behind in the Central going into this game against the Cubs this afternoon. I think the Indians were losing. So, we still got some baseball left, man, but we're getting close to the finish line. And albeit it's only 60 games in this shortened season due to the pandemic, Capper. But if everything goes accordingly and we can, get past this second wave as they've been talking about over the past few months, wouldn't it be beautiful? Wouldn't it be beautiful to see a crosstown series between the Cubbies and the White Sox battling it out? I mean, it's only 60-game season, but it would be great to see our teams, both Chicago teams, battling for the title 2020. What do you think?
I think it'd be amazing. Look, we've had a rough year for the entire world because of the global pandemic. And then in our country, we've had a horrific first 7-8 months because of the murder of George Floyd. You add it all up, the protests and the riots and everything that's gone on. Wouldn't it be fitting that we got a vaccine toward the end of the year, and in October we watched the Cubs and White Sox play in the World Series, and the Bears had a really, really good season, and whoever the quarterback is played really well, and the Bears made a deep playoff run? It would be a great way to finish what has been a first 8 months of really tough stuff for our great city.